Everybody, welcome to Inside Melodic Music, American music. And with me today, a good friend of mine that you probably know from his YouTube channel or his music. Or maybe you know him from back in his days when he was a metalhead. I don't know. We'll see where you know him from. His real name is Federico Chiesa, not the famous Italian soccer player, but the famous Italian musician. You probably know him as Oora. So welcome, Oora. Thank you so much. It's awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me. So nice
Yeah.
to see you. And I want to start saying I wish I was that Federico Chiesa. That would make my life so much
Do you
easier.
get private messages with people thinking that you're him?
Many times. I during not this latest European league because he went a little down, but back when we won the World Cup, there was people writing me beautiful mails, thinking that I was that guy. One guy wrote me a long mail saying that he met the father of the soccer player years ago in Argentina. So he went with very private detail. And I was like, guys, I play synth, don't you see? But yeah, it
That's
still
funny.
happened.
There was actually a an American football player named Eric Turner that I got mixed up with sometimes too. So we have that in common. Well, it's great to have you on here, and I wanted to chat with you a bit about kind of your history in music, your what you're doing now, maybe some things that you're doing that people don't necessarily see every day because I'm sure they watch your videos, but they may not know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So, I know prior to doing YouTube and the type of music that you're doing now, you were in other types of bands and you were a professional photographer. What brought you kind of from that to what you're doing now?
I think it's a common story with a lot of other musician, or especially in the scene uh, environment. I think it was COVID and like the downtime home that allowed me to focus on creation and have a lot of more time because I used to work as a photographer in the time I was living in New York. My previous experience with music was with metal band. I was a guitar player and singer, and I toured a lot. I played a lot, and I had a fascination with synths and electronic stuff, but never really start or dig into that. So COVID arrived. I had at that moment, I think I had some Roland stuff because I was fascinated, and I bought a 303 and a 808 and a 101, and I had it, bought it still at a good price. And so I start playing, and then the collection grow. And COVID that happened, a lot of time, and I said I'm gonna start an Instagram channel, and I had this idea I'm gonna produce one video every day, and that was a sort of sort of stressful, but also great because it put me like on the radar. Because with the constant output of music and video, the channel grew very fast, and also it teached me like how to produce and have ideas and shoot it and film it and use light, edit video. So was 2020, 2021. Since that moment, like all of my interest in video production, music production grew, and it became eventually my only job. Like I managed to live at that moment. I was a photo retoucher. I didn't really like the kind of retouching I was doing. It was cars that I never really care about. And I decided I'll go full in. Thanks also to my wife that supported that. And yeah, the rest is story. Like now I'm doing that for
That's
job.
awesome. And It's interesting that you kind of in some of the other, podcasts that I've done, there seems to be this common thing where a lot of us, including myself, started out in other types of bands, and a lot of us started out playing guitar and singing, and then I think that we ended up in the electronic thing, many of us, and I've heard similar things from people saying that it was nice to not have all of the politics of a band and being just an individual where you can make all the decisions. I'm wondering if it was the same for you.
100%.
Wondering.
Well, yes, and so the band that I was in is called Mr. Bison from Street Fighter, and it's pretty popular right now. I created were me and other two guys, and then at a certain moment the band started to get traction, and they wanted us to play in festival. Was stoner, kind of stoner, Caius, Fu
Mhm.
Manchu, that kind of vibe. And I was living in USA, the band was in Italy, so it was hard for me to be there. And one night I'd been like, the password of our Instagram of our social changed, and I felt like, what happened? And I was pushed out of everything, and a lawyer was put in the middle and say, you are out of the band. If you want to talk, you talk with the lawyer, not with the other bandmates. All the other future festival, you'll be substituted by somebody else. And that meant like blew my mind. People I grew up with, and for years, that's like burning. I was so angry. But now we are friends again. It took literally 10 years to start talking again, but that like pushed me out of the band and say, I understand that what they did because they wanted to play and I was an obstacle at that moment. But there was always this kind of like relationship issue and anger. And so I decided from now on, I'm going to be by myself with all the bad stuff being by yourself, because being in a band
Yeah.
is obviously fun. On stage, I think it's still funnier to share the stage with somebody else. It allows you also to be a little less focused on what you're doing, taking things easier. So I miss that side. Uh, but also, I love the fact that now I'm responsible for what I'm doing, and I don't have to ask to anybody else. I don't like to wait for people. I like to be on my time. Uh, so I enjoy that solitary aspect of music creation right
Yeah,
now.
it's nice when you're creative on your own, you don't have to wait for a group of other people to be creative at the same time. So you get to do that. It is funny though, you went from a metal band to doing stuff that's very, beautiful, melodic, ambient. I was speaking with Matthew with EasyBot, and he was doing like Seattle style grunge because he's from Seattle and now he's doing, electronic stuff. When I was playing in bands, it was like blues rock cover bands like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton, and so, like, the styles changed very much. What was it in you, or was it particular artists or inspirations? What drove the change from one extreme to the other seemingly in music?
The first time that I felt interested in all the electronic side of music making was early 2000, maybe late 90s, when the new metal come. So I was doing at that age I had like a sort of grunge band. I started doing tribute band, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, that kind of stuff. So for me, the Seattle grunge was the first approach to music. Then, then this new metal come, and there was a lot of the DJ scratching, right? There was the synths, and I remember first things about the techniques, and I learned scratching, and then I started playing with a band, being like that side of musician doing scratches. I remember I got a Waldorf was probably 98, 99, the microwave. I had no clue how to make it work. So I would use just the preset to do noises. I never managed to learn that thing, and then I resold it. I think I got a Moog Minitor. That was one of the first things. That was a little easier. So that was the first primer to electronic music. And then later on, I was Andreas Tiliander, TM404. Andreas had this project called TM404, and where he would use a lot of Roland boxes like 3303, 2808, and blah, blah, blah. And the music was very repetitive, very simple, very loop based. But to me was super transcendental, was super fascinating. Yes. And then I also discovered Richie Houghton project Plastic Man, which again was a very simple sounding in a very brutal way, but then you start discovering all the subtlety, all the layers of the sound. And that what initially fascinated me. Like, okay, I can build a very simple loop uh, and work on the texture of sound, or work on the sort of space where these sounds are, things that I wasn't really able to do with guitar or singing. I lost completely interested in the singing part in the song. I don't like, rarely I listen to song with voices, with lyrics. I hate now lyrics when people tells you how they suffer or what you have to do. Maybe that is something great for your upbringing, but right now I cannot stand like messages in music. And yeah, that was the idea that I could create worlds with few scenes using effects, and not really having to deal a lot with the concept like harmony, but it was just melody maybe, and then working a lot with pedals chord, like where the harmonic progression stays like that, was fascinating. And in fact, all of my first albums were mostly C minor, and that's it. And it was like 3 or 3 lines, a lot of playing, intertwining with effects, with the texture created with the 101 and loopers and stuff, and simple drums. And that for me was super liberating. I was finding it so fun and so interesting. So I really enjoy creating music, mostly recording everything as a stereo, never bothered to do production. And that was just that was it. Then things of course changed, and now I have a music shop behind me basically. So I guess the naivety of playing instruments went away, which is a big shame. I remember initially like turning on the 808 that is still there. I never use it, but it was like magic for me, and like the simplicity of it, but the sound. And then the 303 also for me is still a magic instrument, because it's so hard to use, so hard to program, but somehow leads you to interesting stuff. And yeah, like I still feel I'm still very fascinated by machine. And when I find the things that resonate with me, it's it's for me very interesting to play. And also, to be honest, I have to say that this electronic machine relies, I think, less on practice and more on ideas. Like if you want to play guitar at a certain level or piano at a certain level, you need to practice a lot, which is good, which is important. But with electronic music, sometimes it's just like practicing your ideas and like, I want to get this sound. And then you don't have to spend thousands of hours in practicing the instrument to get a certain result, but the result comes because you have that idea and you put together things. So I guess it's another kind of proficiency that came easy for me, and didn't take any effort.
Yeah, the
somehow.
practice seems it's more about practice creation rather than practicing the basics, like spending hours practicing
Yeah,
scales on a guitar and piano. And here it's,
you know that
exploration of practice rather than like, I have to do this, these notes.
many hours I spent trying to learn all of Stevie Ray Vaughan
They're
licks,
hard.
and at a certain moment, super hard. I remember that I managed to get a few of them, uh, not even close, but I know the notes that I have to do. But also, I realize how, and I don't want to generalize, but I a lot of guitar player ends up trying to replicate the sound of a guitar hero, replicate their licks, and that at a certain moment was so like I had this like sort of epiphany and like where this gonna lead me? Even if I learn how to play Stevie Ray Vaughan or any other, or John Mayer, I was obsessed with John Mayer too. Where this gonna lead to nothing, because I will never be half as good as them. Uh, and I don't know, but I felt that in the electronic scene, I had not something to say. I don't want to be like presumptuous, but like I could be more honest with what I wanted to say and not have the technicality of
Yeah.
things in the way. Like I can express myself
Yeah, I
right
think
away,
something
more
that
or
that
less.
I've noticed as well with the difference between kind of traditional instruments and electronic instruments is that there's so many different ways you can use and set up and combine electronic instruments. And there's only so many, like you're going to play a Fender or a Gibson or a PV and you're going to use a Marshall or whatever. Like there's far less combinations. And just within a single synth, you have so many creative combinations. Like we were talking about this. I remember once at lunch at Superbooth when you and I were there, and it was funny because we have so many of the same pieces of gear between the two of us. Like it's funny, like if
Yeah.
you look, there's like the 101, there's the SH 101, there's the Percons,
Yeah.
like the Electron boxes.
We actually look. We shared
Yeah,
also a
exactly, from the
poster back
Electron
there. I see you
boxes,
have it too.
exactly. But it's funny
Yeah,
because we have very, very similar equipment, and yet the music that we make is very different. Where if we were both playing a Fender Strat and we were both using a Marshall amp, it could be different because of our technical skills, but it's still gonna sound really similar. And with this, we have like these worlds that open up that we can
yeah,
create completely different things with exactly the same equipment.
yeah. It's true. In a way, I think that um, in the average players, it could completely right. It's when there's a Stevie Ray
Right,
Vaughan that take a Stratocaster that create a
right.
sound, and there's a John Mayer and there's an Eric Clapton and blah blah blah. Uh, I feel the threshold to get to that level with the instrument that we are used, that are piano, guitar, things that are there way longer than all of this other stuff. It's so high that to stand out requires some God-given gift.
Exactly.
I don't know. Uh, with what we can put together with synths, effects, electronic, you can definitely get in more places.
Mhm.
With the curse, though, that it can be a daunting journey where, like, the more you have, the more you are lost into searching some uh,
Yeah.
place that will never come sometime. And I believe sometimes I'm not jealous, but like if I was a piano player, a good piano player, then I would not have to think so much about setups, about what I want to use, because maybe you just want a good piano, but that's it. And then whatever piano they put you in front of you, you will be able to play it. Instead, for us, I can give you my modular system is not that. immediate that you will know
Right.
what to do with it, which is cool because it's your signature instrument, but it's also, yeah, you become dependent
Yeah.
on your stuff.
Well,
Uh, cool and
yeah, I
curse
think
at the
there's
same time.
also there's a thing out there where, you were talking about practice, and you have to practice synths and modular and whatever to get to understand what they do and how they do them. But like you said, not kind of the same level of technical skill, but it's more practice of exploration, getting to know. And I think what happens sometimes is people try to buy new gear instead of practicing. And so they try to buy their way out of practice.
No,
And that's not something that really exists. Like, you can't buy a better guitar that will make you a better guitar player. And I think people think you can do that with synths, but I think it's equally as untrue. I think that no one will ever get to certain levels of guitar playing, but I think that no synth will ever replace learning how to use it. You can't just
no,
magically have the thing.
no, and they also tricked us with this modular stuff because when you start, apparently you think, oh, when I started at least, now it changed, but the model was 200, 300 each, and I was like, okay, it's
It's like
not
when
that
you go
bad.
it's like when you go to a
And
restaurant
then
for
you end up
tapas, you're like, "Ah, that's not expensive," and then you have 20 of them, and all of a sudden you spend
exactly, exactly.
$300.
Yeah, I remember my first case, which was completely. I went to Control Mod in New York, which is an amazing little shop, and the people there are masters. And there was a Robert Aikiabre, which now is a big shot into the Hollywood score, uh, and it's this guy very fascinating, and like you go there and I remember saying, I want to start with modular, and he start putting things, blah, 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 you should buy this and that, and it was sounding amazing. So I come out of that shop as an oscillator. He made me buy the Telharmonic, which, which wouldn't be, I mean, anything that you should buy. And while he was playing, I was like blown away. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And it was that and few other obscure module. And then I arrived home and I was like, what am I gonna do? And I spent so much money, and I was like sweating, like, okay, this is gonna end bad. And it did end bad
And then it
because
ends with a giant case with all kinds of different things, and yeah.
yeah. Sooner or later, I will have to get a wall saying,
You mentioned that, the person that was there is very into film scoring now, and I know you've gotten into that some as well with films and commercials and things. How did you get started in that? And is that something that you want to expand in, or is that something you just tried and now you want to move back to making more, albums for yourself, or what's your preference?
uh, to be extremely honest, like I had the experience to work both in movies. I'm finishing now a series, but all indie stuff, so still small project, except few commercial that were pretty big. But it, generally, I really love the idea of scoring, and it comes. The project I've been where has always been extremely simple. Like I generally, my first draft, my first idea was always been approved, and that's because I'm a movie fan. I watch movie every day, one or two. It's like I'm obsessed with movies, so I watch them all. And so it's really easy for me to both work with the scoring, with the also shooting myself, the like shooting movies of what I'm doing, editing, coloring. It's something that is part of my nature. It's I would lie to you if the scoring part would cover my main income or my main job. I would love to make it that more consistent. And the more I talk with people that are solid in that space, the more I realize their story always change, but a lot of them, especially the ones that are not classically trained or like properly trained on school, like myself, uh, there's a director or somebody that reach out because knows you. The story of Panic Girl, for example, that she's now working with Netflix a lot, but she told me she put some video on YouTube, a Dune inspired track, something like that, and a director just reached out because he loved that. So I think that job like that, or any kind of job, always work because you put in the word something that resonates with somebody else. And I had this director I'm working now, Emanuele Frusi, that is not directly as a production company, and he came to Berlin because he liked my music and he wanted to meet me and wanted to propose me to work on a project. So it I think it happens organically. Obviously, it helps if you live in the right spot and you know the right people and you are in the right community. It is something that I want to explore definitely more in the future. And to be honest, if I would have to decide, okay, you are a live artist and you make your income playing around, or you make your income scoring movie, I'd rather score movie because I don't like to travel. Like I'm afraid to fly, not afraid, like I'm afraid to fly. Let's be honest. So dealing with all the stress of traveling and playing, I love playing. I love being on stage. I love the live performances, but also I know at this stage of my life, I enjoy being in studio and I would love to just create music for videos.
Is there something besides the scoring stuff? Is there something else in music that you haven't done yet that you would like to do? Do you have as kind of like a dream that's out there that if you could, you would take the opportunity?
See, and here it's like yeah, I am in this phase of my life where I'm like saying things and contradicting myself constantly. Like if you would ask me what is your dream, like I would say, okay, I want to play at Mutec, I want to play at Atonal, I want to,
Oh,
play a big festival. It's more like not the dancey stuff. I like more the listening stuff. So obviously that come after,
right.
the step you have to take to arrive there. You need to have an agent, you need to play out, you need to assess yourself as a live artist. I think what I'm interested lately would be to dig more into the art scene, and now I'm learning touch design and visual programming because I think it could be interesting. I would like to work with dancer, with theater, experimental theater, maybe bring the live music into that kind of art scene, theater scene, visual. Um, so I think that is the side that I never had the chance to get involved yet, and I think for what I'm doing could be a good fit. Um, but even there, you need to. The more I go on in this journey, the more I understand that it's not just about the music you do or the art you're doing or whatever you're doing, but it's also the character you are dressing with. And it seems that the more and more we go on, the more and more it's necessary also not only to have the technical skill and cover what is needed for the job, but also present yourself in a certain way. And it's always doable. You can always become, living in USA teach me that you can always be whatever you want as long as you put the work in it. And but entering certain circles, it's really complex, especially if you come now from. I mean, it was hard to be into the YouTuber circle, but of course that set you up with a certain vibe. And so moving out of that to get into the artist scene,
Yeah.
it's not easy. they will always look at you with a certain
Yeah, I
disbelief.
think that, it's something that I've encountered as well. I think that there are within like, we understand that within the YouTuber circle, that there's different types of people that are all in the kind of synth YouTube world. Some are very much interested in the gear side and the gear reviews. Others, like yourself, are more interested in being the artist, and then YouTube just happens to be a way that you show that, but it's also something very different. We actually talk about this a lot in the course that I teach, where because people ask me all the time about how to get shows, how to get booked, how to do that stuff, and it's all about really it, and it always has been, I think, about connections and about meeting people and about knowing people. And it used to be you had to know the people that worked at the radio stations. You had to know the people that booked the big venues like the Roxy or something. Like, you had to know those people. And so if you didn't, you had to have a manager that knew those people. And now it's still, I think, the same. Like you were saying, if you're in film production, you have to know the people that are doing that. And if you're booking, techno shows at nightclubs, you have to know the people that are doing that, and you have to get to know them, and they have to get to know you somehow. And YouTube is kind of a tool to do that, just like getting your name out there doing anything. It's always kind of been the way. In one sense, it's easier to get your name out now because anyone can do it, but it's harder also because anyone can do it. So there's more people trying to do it, right?
It's it's a brutal game in the way that to get the traction, and I'm similar to you. Like you are the in the social in the ecosystem, YouTuber, where we all are. But also, you are a musician. You play out and you play live show way more than I do. Uh, th- the thing is, like when I started, I didn't even think I'm gonna do content. I wanted to just use Instagram to show my music, and Instagram so far I never use it for anything else. It's just music, it's just ideas, it's just sketches, but I will never talk there, I will never promote anything there, I will never use it as a commercial tool. But then, everybody was like, it's obvious that from there you should open your YouTube where you can monetize, where you can start collaboration. And it has been great at the beginning. Like I was getting all the tools for free, meet a lot of people. And luckily, uh, trying always to propose not only the demo, but also music along with that, and try to make musical demos allowed me to become, and I see that with pride a little, but it's what a lot of friends call me, like the
Mhm.
artist influencer, because a lot of artists reached out to me asking for advices, and I have in the list of people that reached out asking me advices, huge names. um, and uh, I want to drop one name because that was one of the highlight of few weeks of my life. There was this guy, and he was disguised on Instagram, and he was following me, asking me always about synths and like whatever. And then another friend of mine said, "Do you know who that guy is?" And I was like, "Not a clue." And he's Pete
Oh,
Townsend of the Who. And yeah, so I end up, of course, telling him, "Yeah, sorry, I know who you are. Like, I mean, you're a fucking hero." And then we chat, and he was like asking me stuff, and I was like, "Look at that!" I'm like talking about scenes that he played like the OG stuff,
yeah.
and so that's fun. That's cool, and that's what actually was a propeller for keep doing this. Things kind of get a little sideways lately. And in fact, I decided to kind of moderate and curate more now the demo because I'm a little over it. It's just like you need to, whenever you approach anything with the leveraging the social, you need to be careful on the compromise you allow yourself to accept, because it, it can be easy for me to start doing video that will perform very well. but of course, then your image, your persona will be
Right.
perceived in a certain way. You sell stuff, and it's what I obviously do with YouTube. You're trying to sell ideas and then affiliate link and blah blah blah. So you need to survive, uh, and it's completely fine. But obviously, will be held against you the moment that you reach out to a label, reach out to a booker, because they are, yeah, I know you, you are the YouTuber, and that it's always sounds okay. I am already done with this person because he might appreciate me, but he appreciate me on the level that he would buy things because I
Yeah,
presented
I
it in
think
a
that
certain way,
yeah, for
which
sure.
is a
Like,
good skill.
that's in this day, it's definitely something that people use for sure. But I think that, one thing that I've always loved about your videos is, as you mentioned, it's kind of about the music first and the piece of gear second. And I think that, it's something that
Mhm.
I've always felt like you and I have in common with what we do on YouTube is that we're presenting gear that we actually use and not saying like, "Okay, send me any
Mhm.
piece of crap and I'll make it look good and tell people they should buy it," which some people unfortunately get hooked into, not many. I think more people get accused of that than actually do it, but there are some, but I think that,
100%.
it's always refreshing to see, people making videos about gear that is about how they actually use the gear in what they do and not changing who they are and what they
Yeah,
do just to show a piece of gear, and I've always loved that when I watch your videos.
100%. I mean, I I honestly understand the fact that we all have to, not all of that, except the lucky one, but everyone
Yeah,
has to make a job and has to work. The things that haters or people that accuse um, YouTubers is that they have a great power, which is their intention, and like nobody force you to watch anything, right? It's not that the algorithm can put my big face on your page and you can decide I'm gonna watch it or not. What always blow me away is the fact that there's some people that lose their time watching something that they don't appreciate, that they don't understand, and then they
yeah,
spit on that. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, I can perceive right away if somebody is trying to sell me something or is
yeah.
doing for the passion of it. So I can leverage my decision to, all right, I'm gonna get tricked by it, or I'm just gonna watch it because I trust this person, or this person has taste and blah blah blah. I also understand that all of us YouTubers sooner or later do some, you know, side move to get some visualization, more money, and more attention, because sadly it's a brutal game. Like in getting views and getting attention, you need to use some lightly clickbaity
Yeah.
titles. You need sometimes to use those red and yellow
And you
arrow.
need to
You
make
know,
money.
it's whenever you.
Me
No,
neither.
that I will never do. And we we have a friend in common that loves doing that, and he jokes about that. We won't say his name, but he knows. And I mean, it's all fine, but whenever you do those tricks, you see that the video perform better. So it's like, what can we do? Sometimes you compromise, sometimes you don't. I guess you set your bar and you decide where you want to be, and it's important that then you are true to yourself and true to your objective, and try to respect
Yeah, I think
yourself
you
and the
just
other
touched
people.
on it. I think it depends on the objective. Some people in
Mhm.
the YouTube world, the objective is to get more followers or to get their channel bigger or to grow their YouTube influence for the purpose of having it as a job, making money, selling products, and that's one thing. And so if they choose to do that, that's fine. And I think it's just like I understand that
Yeah,
totally. I have a job that I like to do that has nothing to do with music, and it allows me to not have to do that. But if I could do the things I love in music and still not have to have the other job, that would be great. So I understand it. But I also think what I love when I look in the world of kind of music, synth gear, YouTube, is every video I watch, I kind of watch it with the perspective of, okay, here's what I think I'm going to get from this person, right? If I want a video manual, I'm going to watch Loop Hop.
yeah,
I'm not going to watch Loop Hop to hear his latest composition,
100%.
right? If I want something about live performance, I'm going to watch you or Analog Kitchen or somebody who's doing live performance videos. If I want an opinion
Yeah,
about how something is to use, I'll watch Bo or I'll watch Juan or like I kind of watch it from the perspective of who the person is and where they're coming from. And I get told that a lot. I think it might surprise you how many people watch your videos and my videos, like this, like crossover audience,
uh,
because I hear from them the same thing. They want the perspective of somebody who's making music, who's using the thing to make music, and not just the perspective of somebody who can use the thing. And if they want that, they'll go to Loop Hop.
yeah.
Like
I
he can
guess
use the thing better than both of us, I'm sure. Like
yeah.
he knows them way better than
Oh,
us.
and
Yeah,
explain
exactly.
it better. Yeah. I guess we have a sort of common standing here with the fact that, and I mean, I speak for myself, but maybe you fall in that too. Whenever I approach any instrument or any setup, to me is imperative that that will have to sound like something
Mhm.
that I could play live. Uh, I am not interested, this is a big topic, but for example, I grew up with not dislike, not understanding of the DJ culture. For me, it's always been like I cannot understand where is the fun in place of music that somebody else did. And of course, this is my prejudice. And I grew up with the grunge, I grew up with the Rage Against the Machine. And for me, like DJing was, no, I will never do that. Obviously, now I have another idea. It's very complex and a big topic to talk about. But so everything that I record, everything that I play, it has to somehow
Mhm.
also be playable live. If it's something is super produced, it's something that I would never be able to record in a take, then it's not for me. And I guess this limitation and this idea of electronic music as instrument you can play live, it's what uh, it's the constraint I want to have to create music, because otherwise I would feel extremely lost by the infinite possibility that creating music offer, creating electronic music. And the idea of recording multi-track stuff one by one, sometimes I do, sometimes I enjoy, but it is daunting to me. It's just like, okay, there's so many things I can learn, so many things I can do that I don't know what to do. Instead, whenever I put few instruments in front of me and at least I record the foundation of a track all live and then I build on top, that's the way I enjoy. So obviously, when I demo stuff, when I try stuff, there's always the perspective how these things can be used live as value as a live instrument. Uh, uh, and I end up only demoing or only reviewing or only using stuff that allows have a great user
Understand.
interface.
Workflow
That's
is
to me,
the most important thing.
uh,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Everything sounds good at this point of history, like plugin sounds probably better than all of this hardware. Or so what I think it matters is the idea behind the workflow and the creation. And like, I like big stuff. I like having synths where my big hands can do stuff. Don't give me the new small Roland boxes. Don't give me Volcas. I cannot understand or stand that stuff. Of course, yeah, the modular stuff, it's small,
It
like too
depends.
small. I wish
I've
I
been
can
noticing
afford to
lately, it
have a
depends the company. Like, I started using recently a few of the modules from Shakmat, and one of the things that I love is their
Mhm.
modules use full-size knobs and not like the little tiny ones that you have to, like, get
Yep.
in with tweezers, and it's just
Yep.
nice to play. Or like Erica Synths or like Moog, they all have, like, they're comfortable to play, and it's important. It
Yeah.
really is important that it feels good to play something.
it's all exactly, it's all company which that create stuff aimed to live use. You take Erica, for example. I have the Percons right in front of me, because now it's getting to be my main percussion, drum, whatever. And it's a pleasure to use, even if the sounds are not really fitting my world. I, I'm learning how to make that happen because it's such a pleasure to use this machine live, and it's taught so well taught that it's mind blowing. Shakmat, they sent me Centaur Gates, which is a pleasure to use, and you're right, it's big. Uh, Moog, of course, like everything that they do, it's aimed to use. And one of my dream would be to have the Model
Mhm.
15 or the Model 10, which are bloody simple thing, but I mean, I would love to just
Yeah,
touch those big knobs. And I honestly feel that if the interface is well done,
yeah,
the music will be better. And again, like I have the performer here, which is my main synth
right.
since ages now. Like I muscle memory, it's great for me with this synth. I can create a lot of nuances, even though it's the most simple sounding synth ever create. I don't know, but it's all about
Right.
the feeling, and the to me that is an instrument not too dissimilar than a piano or a guitar, because it allows me to have a lot of sensible movement, and uh, it's just a lot that you can experiment with just a tiny movement of these big
Yeah,
knobs.
and, Percons has always felt kind of like the drum version of the performer, the way it feels and the size and the way
Yeah,
it, yeah, and also the performer for me, there's 2 synths that I have, like, on my list that I'll get when I have the extra money kicking around to get. One is the performer, and the other one is the, Erica Synths, Syntrex 2,
Here,
and the same thing, like,
Citrix.
they're just like, there's a feel. It's just there's something about the feel of them that's amazing.
that I mean, the Syntrix, obviously, I have it. I've been gifted with that. I wish I was using it more, not because it doesn't sound great, but it is a beast of itself. Like the Percons, all Erica synth, I feel it's like Soma stuff. It's stuff that reveal itself themselves when you start really
Mhm.
playing it. So
They take more practice.
I'd say the performer is, yeah, they take more practice. Yeah, you need to know them. It's more of a dialogue, as I like
Mhm.
to say, with the machine. The performer is instant gratification because it sounds beautiful and round. But a lot of people bought it because it's so it in my video, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you made me buy one." And then a lot of people write me back like, "I hate
Yeah,
this thing," and I'm like, "Okay, why?" It's because like, it sounds so basic, it sounds so simple, and I guess it's really hard to try before because it's a rare instrument to find around, but it is an instrument that you doesn't get any modulation, doesn't have any MIDI CC. So this is an instrument you have to heavily play with your hands. So it falls perfectly
right.
in my vision of music. But a lot of people that, especially people that come with the modular synth, with everything is modulable without using your hand, this would sound like a dumb
Yeah,
instrument.
it's funny you mentioned that about modular because, I'm very much the same. I like very hands-on things, and my modular case that I play with when I travel, it has zero modulation. Nothing is modulated automatically. I have it set up so that the pieces that are in it, the modules that are in it, are all very good for modulating with your hands. Because for me, if I'm not doing it with my hands, it doesn't feel like I'm playing it. Like you mentioned, it's a conversation, it's a dialogue with the machines. And talking about that, one of the things I think you and I both really enjoy as well is well, first, of course, the improvisational side and not like preparing a bunch of tracks to play those tracks, but really the improvisation thing. But it's we have both leaned very much towards the Oxy One for doing that as well. And that idea that you can do stuff that you wouldn't expect. Like the machine can talk back to you. You say something and the machine says something as well. It's a conversation and not just you are playing the machine and it's doing what you say.
Yeah, yeah. We both share a lot of love for Oxy, and the Oxy One has been at this point, I think it's 4 year, that is my main sequencer. Before was
Yeah.
the Octatrack, which in a way is a good sequencer, but very limited because it's the older school. Uh, which though I am so proficient with the Octatrack, I can pl- create a nice sounding track in
Yeah.
literally real time in 5 seconds, boom, and I'm good. The Oxy, though, the more you get into that, the more uh, you understand all the nuance and all the possibilities, mind blowing. And to be honest, I'm using it, I'd say 50% because I 99, 90% of the time I use
Mhm.
mono tracks, and the other 10% are the chord, which I usually use just to harmonize the mono track, which is a feature
Yeah.
that is unbelievable. And not a lot of people use that. And like when you try it, it opens up possibilities with the touch of a button that are incredible. So it's one of those tools that the moment I got it, I realized, okay, this is my pen, and it's gonna be my pen. To the point that like I am struggling right now because after 4 or 5 years, it's my turn to get a Circlone, and I'm debating why should I buy it, because like at this point there's nothing that the
Mhm.
Oxy cannot do, and probably even better. And and I'm tempted because of the historical
Yeah.
value of that sequencer just to have it. But it's also 2K, and I'm like, okay, I can buy maybe something else. So I'm trying to save some money, and so I feel I should have it as a tribute to them. But yeah, like I feel when you find your piece of software,
Yeah.
your writing tool, that for both of us, I guess, is the Oxy. I love other stuff. I love the T1 from Torso. I love still like the Metropolix to me is an amazing sequencer. The Usta is an amazing
Yeah.
sequencer in the modular. But that's it. I have everything I need with just
Yeah, I mean,
the
I'm the
the
same way.
Oxy.
I find myself, I have like the Metron I was using a lot for modular. I have all the different electron boxes and everything, and I always go back to the Oxy. It just seems to be the thing that it's
Yeah.
so quick. That's the thing is if I have something that I want to do, I can make it happen really quick. For me, really the feature that I love, I think, and I use the most in the Oxy is being able to generate gate and CV, gate and pitch separate from each other. I love to be able to have the control over writing a rhythm that I like the groove of the rhythm and then generating random notes that keep the same rhythm and keep the same key. And it's just such a crazy idea generator. When I'm playing live, I use that all the time. I don't know if we've ever really talked about this, but when I perform live, I'll do my sound check. And then at the end of sound check, the last thing I do before I leave is I blank all my sequencers so that when I come up to play, I have to start with something new. I have to start with something. And the Oxy is just so
Nice.
quick get started with ideas and then modify them and keep making new iterations of those ideas.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like I I I do less improvisation lately than I used to because I got into some new production style, and now I like to go on stage with more of a soundtrack. But I miss, like, I did the festival this summer, and then I did a workshop. And during the workshop, after a while, a guy who could scream like, "Whoa, to play us something! Like, why don't you do some music instead of talking?" And I didn't expect that because I didn't prepare anything, and I had the Oxy and the performer, and I say, "Oh, okay." And after 5 minutes, I have this cool piece going on from scratch, and everybody was loving it. And I was like, "Look at that!" Just like sometimes I overcomplicate uh, what I want to bring on stage, while I forget that the people in front of me has
Right.
don't know what I'm doing, don't have the same critic look on what a musician do. So the fact that I was able to create something in front of their eyes and make it sound good, and then performing it on the performer, so creating this ever-changing piece so
Mhm.
easily and seamlessly for them was like, how you do that? Like, these are machine, you need to sit down and program. So that is what was my original goal, which probably we share, is like the fact that we don't play prepared music, but we are actually making music, and it's a new, I wouldn't call it a new frontier anymore, but it's still, I think, the idea of performing live, unprepared electronic stuff, I think is still a frontier because how many people called you, you are a DJ just because you were playing electronic music, and they still doing to me, and like, it's a
Right.
different, it's a complete different things what you're doing on stage. It's like both has different value, and the fact is, like, I think the audience, most of the audience is still uneducated about what is electronic music, and like we all fall in a big category that is, okay, oh, if you are on stage and you do, there's a kick on the floor,
Yeah.
you're a DJ,
Well,
and it will take
it's funny
time, so I
because
still feel
I have a little bit different perspective because I was a DJ for almost 30 years and DJ producer.
Mhm.
And the thing that got me into this side of it was I wanted to move so far away from that and combine the fun of DJing and making people dance and have a good time and getting a reaction out of the crowd with music, but combine that with the production side in the moment and making the music in the moment. And it's funny because now sometimes I'll do a DJ set somewhere and I'll be thinking like, "Oh, I wish I could do this, but I can't because I don't have the right track to do that right now. And if I had my gear, I could do that." It's interesting though, and this is a much longer conversation. We'll probably have another time, but the something I've been thinking a lot about lately is that the value to people, to the listener of DJs, of even produced music is declining in value because it's becoming easier and easier to make it, whether it's software, whether it's AI, whether it's, the producing music can be done now by computers without the person. And so the value of it is getting to be
Yeah.
less and less. It was already getting to be less with things like Spotify and streaming. And, if somebody doesn't like your song in the first 5 seconds, they switch to another song or whatever. So the value has been going down. Where
Yeah.
I think the volume or the value is going up is in live performance, because that's something that a computer can't
Yeah.
perform live. It can't improvise live using the energy from the crowd. It can only do things based on algorithms that are based on things that have already happened. So it can't make something in the moment live based on what's happening in that moment. And so I think that value of improvised electronic music is getting more and more valuable, while the value of the production side or the DJ side is getting to be less and less because that can be replicated without the person, and the live performance can't be.
Yeah, it's well, this week we experienced Richie Houghton talking about the
Mhm,
closure of Slice, which was this a startup that would allow DJ to pay a fair share of money of the money that they get, which sometimes is like unbelievable amount, like 40, 50, 70K for
mhm,
one 3 hour gig, to redistribute to the people that create the music they play. Uh, he has been the pioneer of this kind of stuff, always been very fair, and to it started a lot of thoughts in my in my head, like what is really this DJ culture we are facing now? When we were when I let me talk about me, because I'm not obviously denigrating the DJ role. What I'm what I don't understand, what I don't appreciate is the DJ culture, the DJ hero that we come to appreciate these last 10 years or whatever, where DJ became these mythical figures where when people pay hundreds of dollars to just go look at somebody playing music of somebody else. To me, it's still very hard to wrap my head around that, because the function of a DJ to me is a very clear. You are an entertainer. And if you take things like that, every musician on stage is an entertainer. It's not an artist for me. There's there shouldn't be any attitude of being an artist when you use material for made by others. But I guess this might bring a lot of polemics, and it's
mhm,
hard to talk about this kind of stuff. I just think that the society we live in feels that it's a society that needs to be fed,
mhm,
fed. Uh, so sometime I see the DJ culture not that different as the algorithm as of Spotify. Like you go to a place and you have somebody that curate
mhm,
completely your experience, and you don't care what is the music you're listening. How many people will do research and say, "Oh, this music has been produced by this guy for this reason, and he do this kind of music." No, you will be bombarded by music. You could be amazing, and that experience stop there. You say, "Oh, this DJ brought me on a journey," because that's what they say, "Brought me on a journey," and that's it. So I feel like that's not as dissimilar as an algorithm of YouTube, Instagram that tells you, "Okay, you come here, I'll give you things you like." And while back in our childhood, and now this will make me very old when you somebody say that, but whenever we consume music, we have to be extremely careful and curate really well, because we were spending $30 for buying a CD. Maybe in that CD you like three songs or one song. And it was like so much of an effort on getting that, appreciate that. Uh, you had to really build your taste, build your discography. Now it's everything is there, everything is simple. You go listen to this festival where there's hundreds DJ. Like there was this festival in Italy, Future Festival. There was like hundreds of DJ, and each one promote a different vibe with hundreds of producers. And it's like I don't understand
yeah.
this culture anymore, and I respect it in a way. Like it's fine, it brings money, it brings culture anyway.
I think
But
for me, what it always was, and I always was kind of in the more underground side of things, whether it was house or techno that I was DJing. The idea was that there's certain types of DJs that are there to give the people what they want. Those are not the more underground DJs. That's the people
Mhm.
that you're gonna see in the big festivals, the big Vegas nightclubs that everybody wants to hear their favorite song, and the DJ is gonna play their favorite song, and they're gonna love that. The way I always looked when I was DJing was more that the music was like a soundtrack. It was the soundtrack for your evening. And it was music that would get an emotional response, like a soundtrack to a movie would get an emotional response. And if you do it right, you
Mhm.
can make people have a really different experience in their evening than they would have had if they were just listening to all their favorite music. And for that side, there was
Yeah,
always
yeah.
a thing where the DJ was kind of promoting the music that these people would have never heard otherwise. And it's really turned into something really
Mhm.
different where now they're just giving them what they want, just like you said, like an algorithm. And so it's less about giving them an experience that they couldn't have somewhere else, and more about giving them exactly the experience they want. And sometimes it's like with a little kid, the kid doesn't know what they should eat. They just know what they want. And so if you give it to them, they'll be happy. And if you don't, they'll cry. And it's kind of the same thing with the culture has really
Yeah, yeah,
changed
yeah, yeah,
dramatically.
yeah.
And when I started into
Definitely.
the live performance side, that was the reason. It was that there was nothing different from one DJ to another anymore. Everyone had access to the same music. It used to be you had to really work, just like you said, you had to work to find great, different, unique music, present a
Exactly.
set that was different, learn from the vibe of the crowd, what would be the good thing at the good moment, and did you have the right music for that? So there was a lot more involved. Now everyone has all the same music. I can have, 100,000 songs on a USB and I can have every song I want. So if the vibe's not right, I can instantly change it. And there's not the same type of curation that there was in the past. And that's not for everybody. I mean, there are certainly DJs who do a great job at that. But it's definitely changed. And that was really what
For
moved
sure.
me towards the live performance thing is I wanted to create a soundtrack for the party that I was playing. And I wanted to make it something unique that they
Mhm.
couldn't get from anyone else, that would never be repeated again. The music I played that night was created that night for that night. And, I don't even like to record my sets because when you listen back, you'll hear things, you'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking to myself, well, in the moment, it made a lot of sense. There was a person in front of me doing this thing, and this was for
Yeah, yeah.
them. And if you don't see that person, that may not make any sense to you when you're listening to the music. So, it exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about was really what pushed me to go into live performance and less about DJing, just because for me, it feels more pure. It feels more like you're there for the people rather than you're just giving them the things that they want. I don't know. That was what drove me there for sure.
No, no, make completely sense, and maybe the like I don't want to be misunderstood by. I realized the cultural importance that DJing had in history of music, and like how in a certain time of our history, it was uh, so necessary that somebody would uh, broadcast that music because nobody had access. So in that time, like, of course, that was a mandatory step. It's like really hard for me adhering to the now
Yeah,
hero DJ culture, which like I want to give each person its own function and be honest to the function that everybody has. It's really hard to have genius and artists nowadays. It feels like the Mozart and the Beethoven. Like maybe we will and our generation heroes and genius will be discovered later on, right? But but yeah, it's as you said, I enjoy to go and see artists that put a lot of risk in what they're doing and offering me a unique experience. If the set you're playing, it's that. Like even as an artist, I know there's people that play and like they have a set, and there's very little that they can change. Maybe they just play with the filter. Mm, Maybe for me, the value is less. in the end we all listen to music, so I guess the value of things at the end of the game, it's at the end of the day, it's just what you personally give to to what you're listening, and how it makes you feel. For us, maybe the value is in seeing somebody that's actually performing, actually
Yeah.
risking, actually sweating. For others, it's just like, okay, I
Mhm.
want to just dance, so bring me good music and I'll be happy. Uh, I guess we are sons of a certain generation where uh, we have been taught, like, if you go out there and present something, it has to be good. You had to work on that hard, and it's gonna be a lot of work, a lot of
Yeah.
stress, a lot of sweat. While I feel that lately, it's more put things out and put quantity out, then sooner or later something will happen. Which, I don't know what is
Yeah.
best or wrong. It's two different approach, and I grow up with that approach, so I'm slave to that, and I maybe hardly see things differently. And we are. I don't know how old are you, but I'm fairly old to be into the influencing and seeing YouTubing things. Like it
I think
arrived
I'm
very late
probably
in my
older
life,
than
so
you, so
sometimes
it's
it's
okay.
hard to. eh, like sometimes it's like, okay, it's hard for us to talk with the younger generation because it's I don't listen to Billie Eilish, and I probably should because that is the new generation of great produced music, and
Yeah,
it's a
I
lot of
think
work
that
though.
that's the new generation of popular music. And sometimes things are popular because they're great, and sometimes they're popular because they're popular. I think Billie Eilish is very talented, so she's probably popular because of that. But I think that, just as a final thing on the DJ and electronic music thing, I think that for some people it's only important the sound of the music and the as the soundtrack of their party. Are they having fun? Are they enjoying themselves? Does it touch them? For some people, it's the quality of the performance or the technical ability. And I think for people like you and I, it's both. Like, we want somebody to be doing something
Yeah,
impressive that sounds really great. And I think that just makes the bar a little higher. And I think there's an audience out there for that. And I think, when they see somebody like you perform, they understand that the music sounds amazing and what they're doing is difficult and it took practice and it took work and it's not something that everyone
yeah,
can do. And I think that's why they have a different appreciation for artists like you than they would maybe have for somebody who or some music that was created by an algorithm. It's there, and I
yeah,
think that there's an
yeah,
audience
makes
for
sense.
that too. It may not be as big, but that's okay. Doesn't have to be big. It just has to be good, right?
Yeah, and I believe that the more we go into this digital culture where algorithm will do everything, I start believe that actually is good for people that want to do art, because it will if you want to have a unique voice, i- i- you will have chance to have it the more you go your personal, uh, even imperfect way, because all the other ground, especially the commercial well produced perfect things, will be taken over by computer. There's all the commercial stuff, all the perfect things will be made by computer. So it's the time, I feel, to really embrace your personality, your imperfection, because that is still hard to replicate. And so I think it's where I would put all of my money now. Don't I wouldn't try now to learn to be the perfect producer that do things that sounds amazing, because in a few years that skill set will be sadly destroyed by the
Yep.
computer. So I would rather invest a lot in the personality and the
Yeah, I
uniqueness
think
of your
that
voice.
computers will be able to do most everything except humanity. They won't be able to have humanity. They may be perfect, but the
And food.
imperfections that make us, unique. Well, I think that's a perfect place for us to end. Thank you so much, Ura, Federico. It's been awesome to talk to you, and, I'm sure everybody's gonna enjoy this one because of the insights you give. I love your music. I love what you do. I can't wait to see you again at Super Booth next year probably, or the next time I'm in Berlin. So, it's been
Soon,
great.
yeah.
I appreciate it, and,
Yeah.
just finally let everybody know where they can find you. What's the best way to find your music, to support what you're doing, and all of that stuff.
Aura Music, it's my Instagram ID, and then Aura Music same in on YouTube, and Spotify is just Aura, which would be my name, but it's getting Aura Music. Even that has been is changing now. And yeah, that's it. That's where Instagram, I guess, it's the best way because I always put the links and the stuff for the new production, for the EP, for the album that's come out, and it's my main
Great, and of
outlet in the
course,
world.
YouTube, Patreon, all those things are out there as well. You know, it's the great ways to support
Oh,
artists.
I have Patreon. Yes, 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 yes. I have a Patreon where like it's a nice community where I like do a lot of very exclusive content, teach, and yeah, that's my one of my actually main activities, the
That's great.
Patreon
Well, thank you
community.
so much again, and thank everybody else for tuning in to Inside Electronic Music. Hope to see you next Tuesday. There's a new episode every Tuesday, and, until then, have a great time with your music. Cheers. Bye-bye.